Welcome to another video where I delve into my black and white journals, my absolute favorite. So the last video, I got a lot of feedback from all of you, and I'm so excited that you like and love black and white spreads just as much as I do. So let's do another one. It's in the same book, and I'm starting off with the tape again. This is painter's tape. I know it looks like masking tape, but it's painter's tape, so it's not as tacky. So, yes, they have the blue ones as well as this color that looks like masking tape. So what I did different to the other one was that I had painter's tape in the middle as well. So I thought that would be fun because when I pull them off, I'll have like two separate blocks, even though I'm seeing it as one spread. So I'm going to create it as one spread. So here I'm drying. I did my black background. I love to start with a black background. I don't always, but I wanted to start with that because I have a lot of painted papers. Now, these papers, I actually have a video on YouTube about them, and I got these papers when I did these explorations of traditional and non-traditional tools. And so I made collage papers using non-traditional tools. Like those circles were made for the tops of my paint bottles. The other ovals were from paper towel rolls. And then I also have, patterned paper from scrapbooking, from tissue paper, etc. So I have formal paper that was already printed, and I have paper that I made already. So now at this point, I'm just going through all the papers, seeing which ones I like the most. And you just have to start somewhere. So sometimes I might just rip something and stick it down and let that be something. But I keep going back to this one because I love how the craft paper looks with the black and white. So this is not fully black and white like the last one, but it has the craft paper, goes so nicely, the neutrals. So it kept catching my eye. I knew I was going to just tear it. And because I know that I'm doing these two blocks, because I have the tape in the middle, I think I'm thinking like that. That's why I wanted one on one side, one on the other. If I didn't put that tape in the middle, I might have just done a larger piece going straight across, like in a diagonal, and see what happens from there. So I did this. I kind of am thinking of, one is kind of facing up, one's kind of facing down. I'm trying to, feed off of each side. Each side is balancing. I'm constantly thinking of balance. And that doesn't necessarily mean something has to be even or symmetrical at all. But I'm balancing on both sides. And, as I do this, I'm seeing things and I try to just repeat it, some of it, on each side. And I just like the negative space. That's why I like to work with the black underneath. I like the negative space that comes up in between that strip I put on either side. So I have that kind of foundation, and now is to build on it. But I have to be careful because, many times we just want to add, we're additive. And we're not thinking of negative space. Negative space is so important. So I have that black negative space going around, and I have to be aware of how I want it to play. I want to cover up the whole thing. At the end, I do want to put text, my gratitude quote. I didn't put one on the last one. This one I definitely want to put. And so, it gets busy. And so I have to think about that. At this point here, just like I tore a piece that looks circular, but I'm not sure. So I'm like, but I have a punch. I have a hole punch. I forgot about it. And a nice big one. I have other sizes too, but this is the perfect size for it. And I used one of my hand-painted collage papers. So I'm like, okay, let's do it. And I must say, I'm thinking of both sides. I'm kind of like repeating on either side, but I know that I have to bring it together. I can't just, try and do this symmetry. It's not symmetry, but a repetitive on either side. So I know I do have to, change it up a little bit or see what happens. But right now, I'm just having fun with it. I'm seeing where it goes. and then I can make some changes. Oh, I decided that I wanted to kind of have an indentation where this circle is, because the other side does. The other side naturally did. And so I figured, ooh, it'll be nice. So I want to do that repetition. So I'm echoing one side to the other and see how that goes. So very non-traditional right there. I just kind of drew the edge and cut it. It's not a full on semicircle, but it's going to give me a kind of effect that I want. I just wanted that indentation. So then I can put the circle and it will have that negative space in between. But I do like the circle. So I'm realizing that I'm continuing with this circular theme. And there you see, that's what I used, the paper towel. That's what I used when I did that collage paper. It's circular, but I squeeze it in so you get these kind of oval shapes with the pointy edge. And I think, you know what, I'm going to repeat that. And I'm going to paint it onto the black. So the white onto the black will give you a stock. And then you notice as the craft paper, look at the craft paper, it has the black, same pattern of the black. So I'm repeating that, but in another tone. Look at that. So that's contrast right away. The contrast of the white against the black, the contrast of the same pattern, but we're using it in black on the craft paper, and here we're using white directly onto the spread. And so at first I did one and I didn't know what I was doing with it. I'm repeating it. I'm like, okay, it gives kind of like a floral effect. I like that. And I'm using the same one, but I am bringing it in so it appears that the florals or the petals are small. Now here, look at that. So I decided I want to repeat that circle. And I thought it was the top of my paint, but it was not my paint one. I had something else. So I'm looking for it. And guess what? I finally found it. And it is the top of my paint pens. So the top of my paint pen, I used it, dip it in ink, dip it in paint, and you can then do a repeat pattern. And that's exactly what I use for the circles in there. So I like that idea that I'm using the collage paper that was it was painted upon and printed. And then I'm using this stamping effect directly onto it. So I'm using the stamping effect right on to my journal. And I like that. So it's not just the collage paper, but I'm actually working on top of it. And I'm repeating a lot of those repeated patterns that were already in the collage papers. So this is interesting me. I love it. And whatever I do on one side, I want to kind of echo it. And it doesn't mean it has to be in the exact place, but it echoes. It's like, oh, I did the circles up at the top or the bottom, and then I'm doing it on the other side. I have almost like the petals and flowers, but one side is larger, one side is smaller. So similar, but different. At this point, I want to peel the tape off, but let me just get rid of all this clutter because because it's feeling very finished for me. So at that point, that's why I needed that clear white space. I just put a piece of drawing paper underneath so I have a clear space so I can actually see when I pull that tape off what I need to do, what's happening. But I was very impressed with where this went and how quickly I kind of, decided because there were so many things. And that's what I think you have to be careful with. I had all this collage paper, but look at the ones I used. I literally used two, the brown craft one and the one with the circles. Those were the two only ones. And now this one, I wanted the inside to be a little darker. So I drew a circle, and this is another piece of that collage paper. I wanted it to have a center. And looking at it now, it didn't really need it, but I liked it. I like how that, because we had the circle again. So that circle motif is just continually going and going and going. And I want to repeat that circle, and I'm not sure. I want it to be a little different to it. And again, it's another dimension. But as I was saying, there's so many pieces of collage paper. So sometimes, even though we minimalize our color scheme, we have black and white, neutrals. So already we have a limited color scheme. You also want, when you have your collage papers, to kind of limit it as well. And I had all of them around. It's a good thing the one with the craft paper just caught my eye. And that's why I had to move all the others, because I was seeing, oh, I could add this and I could add this. But guess what? It gets busy really fast. So here I decided to do another one in the middle. But I felt like it needed that punch, just like the one on top had a little more of that darker. But the one I cut out, I thought it was way too dark, because I feel like it's calling, it's just, catching my eye. So I decided to go in with that same stamp with the paper towel and just put a little white on it, to quiet it down a bit, make it, not as stark of the black. And I think that worked quite well for that. I like it. And at this point, I'm just turning it around, seeing what sides works better. Abstract, I'm seeing them as a spread. But actually, the way I see one is upright, and then I turn it around and I see the other upright. So actually, I see them as two different compositions, and I love them. I love them. So one I prefer facing up, like this way, and the other one turned around. But I've decided that I'm still going to use it as one. And I'm going to choose one side, and we're going to put some text. At this point now, I am just cleaning up those edges. I didn't like that, some parts were torn in between, jagged. So I'm just going with my Posca black paint pen. It's acrylic ink, acrylic paint in there, and I'm cleaning up that edge. Cleaning it up, and that makes all of a difference. And at this point, I'm ready for my text, my gratitude. This is my gratitude journal, my black and white gratitude journals. So I'm using a gratitude quote. And at this point, when you're using text, and you might have a busy area, because I was thinking of putting text on the black, but I didn't leave enough black around. However, I'm very satisfied with the amount of negative black space that there is, but I want to put my text. So what do? I would usually glue it down and then put the black marker around it and just make it pop. This time I decided I really wanted to stand out on its own. So I'm going to use a black piece of paper around it. It will give the same effect. And here I'm just moving around the quote, seeing what works better. What should I put on the left side? What should I put on the right side? And it's pulling the whole thing together. So even though one side I feel is kind of different and I like it upside down, which is the left side, the right side is, I think it works well that way. But in putting the quote and putting my text in pulls the two together. And so I think that's a great idea. I decided to put it on the black background. So I'm just gluing it down on black paper and cut around it. And that's a nice, easy way of getting a background. So you're giving it a background and it's allowing it to just stand out. Yes, look at that. Look at that. Pulls it right in and connects the two sides. Connects the two sides nicely. Yeah, I do. I really enjoyed that I put the tape in the middle. It's interesting. Do that because I usually put just the tape all around the edges and we have the center. It's one spread. I don't want to separate the two. But this one I decided, let's separate it. And I like it. I really like that. And maybe I could do a series of those. So each time you turn the page, they might be separate too. I in my mind, I wanted this to be one spread. And so that's why I put the quote on either side. But you could do it and you could just have two different quotes or just one word. And they're their own entity. The funny thing is, if I do it like that, there will be some that will be upside down, some will be right side up. Because as I work, I move it around and I see how it works, and then I might see that the composition works better. Now, this is interesting here. We all know I've spoken about this a lot. I love my dots. But sometimes not everything needs an extra thing or an extra dot. And here I really thought I changed my mind. And that is a beauty. And that's why I wanted to leave this in the video for you to see. If you did something and you felt, oh, let me sit with it, let me think about it, and I don't like it, take it out, right? Take it out, remove it, or try it. I love my dots, but I really think they're too much. There's a lot going on, and I need to quiet the space. I also have text to read. And I have the circles, semicircles, I have repeated patterns. So after much thought, have you seen that? I took my black paint pen, and I went over the dots. I didn't want it anymore. And that's the beauty of mixed media. We can't do that with watercolor, can we? Though I love watercolor. That's a whole other thing. But yes, you take it right out. And remember, you make, you have an idea and you can remove it or you can add it. There I used my paper towel to get those like petal-like shapes. I love this piece. I'm very, very pleased. I had so much fun with this. I'm going to continue working on this.